G'day viewers, my name's Graham Stevenson and I'd like to invite you to come on a journey of creativity and learning and adventure through the series Colour in Your Life. There's an artist in every family throughout the world, and lots of times there's an artist deep down inside all of us as well. So grab your kids, your brothers, your sisters, your aunties, uncles and mums and dads and come and see how some of the best artists do what they do. Okay, well we are in Brisbane today and it's the second time we've come up to see this amazing artist, Tricia Reust. Tricia,
G'day, Graham.
welcome back
So
again.
good to
It's
see
great
you
being here. We had
again.
a fantastic time with Tricia last time we were here, but we're going to discuss Tricia's life a little bit as we go through, but she literally has got some amazing techniques that she's going to show us today with pastels.
Pastels.
Which is going to be pretty cool. So we're going to get right into this today. You're going to learn a great deal of things. Obviously the second time you enjoyed it the first time.
Oh, Graham, it was the best thing I ever did.
Fantastic.
Fantastic feedback. People still watch it, still tell me about it, and what was over 6 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, and your workshops are pretty well booked out.
People just really come on board since I did it.
That's fantastic. So, but let's get stuck straight into this, and you're going to learn some amazing stuff, I guarantee it.
So as Graham said, I love pastel. Basically I'm a drawer, but pastel needs the same as charcoal. It needs to have a surface that has tooth so it can grab on. And I've discovered pastel primer, and pastel primer is something that prepares any surface whatsoever with tooth. And you can see I'm applying it with a crisscross motion with my stiff bristle brush. And I really personally love the brush marks, but if you don't like that, once that's on, you just smooth it with a sponge if you want a smoother edge. You use this also just to, if you've gone to life drawing or if you're a messy drawer, these colours that are available are the same colours as your prepared colour fix or sanded papers, and you can clean up the edges around them with the application, and you'll see in my life drawing that I've done that. The other thing I love to do with this is if you've got a rip, you seal it with binder, and you've got your masking tape, and then the primer seals that back up. And if the tear is really bad and it still shows, you can always just put collage over it, which I'll be showing you later anyway. Now if you have an old work and you don't like it anymore, you just put your primer over. Now I've been demonstrating so far with soft umber, but your clear primer actually does dry clear. If you've got an old work, the paper is more valuable than the old work. You can just leave all that lovely pastel on there, put your pastel primer on, and then just get rid of the old painting. The pastel melts into your clear pastel primer and you end up with a beautiful grey, really pearly piece of paper ready for a new pastel. So I can push all this pastel around, but if you're not happy with that leftover painting from the clear pastel primer, you can actually add some new pastel in there and push that around with the primer while it's still wet, of course, and make some lovely abstracted shapes in your paper so that it's ready for the new one.
And you'll just work over the top of that?
Just work over the top. That'll dry, and look at that. Look at those lovely pearly greys.
That looks great.
And it just it's
and you basically
fantastic.
use that as a background then, just for...
Oh yeah, like it's ready for it's a new piece of paper.
Yeah.
I hate waste.
So the technique that you've got there, it looks like the picture memory door.
Yeah, that memory door painting has actually 2 or 3 paintings under that, and the texture, and that lovely smoky background actually was created by putting the clear primer over an old painting.
Okay.
Now you can use your clear primer over old watercolours. If you have a look at my little girl portrait called Bright Future, that's actually clear primer over an old watercolour, and then the portrait painted in pastel once that clear primer had dried. The other thing that's wonderful about this primer is you can actually prepare a canvas. A lot of people don't realise that you can actually pastel on a canvas. So I'll just bring this one up. For this canvas here, I've got a wash of acrylic. I've got the clear primer over it. You can't see it, of course, but I can feel that lovely sandiness. So this is the lovely darks under the orange fruit here.
So what type of pastels are you actually using, Tricia?
I'm using Art Spectrum. I love Australian products, but also you get more for your money. They're a bigger stick.
And they're supposed to be non-toxic as well, is that right?
Oh yes, that's a very good point. Art Spectrum guarantees that the pigments are non-toxic.
Yeah.
A lot of people use gloves with their pastel work. I love pushing it around with my fingers, so it's really important for me to know that I'm not working with toxic pigments.
Ingesting anything at all, yeah.
But you can see how beautifully that pastel is blending and how beautifully that's coming on, and lovely, lovely rich darks. I can put all these lovely. This is one of my favourites, a Flinders Blue Violet. You can just see how vibrant that's coming up, and
so.
Yeah. So and you can actually push that in with water as well.
When you actually do your workshops, which you do a great deal of them right across the country, you're a very well sought after teacher. There are three words that you use in the proviso of putting your work together, and that is concept, construction and creation.
That's perfectly true. You need to define what you're going to say visually, and only then do you make your decisions about construction, which include what am I going to paint on, what medium am I going to use, am I going to have texture, what's my colour palette, and only after you've made all those decisions do you start creating. So the same thing I did with water on the canvas. I just went, pastel loves getting wet. So I'm just going to do a real quick demo of how beautifully the pastel moves around. Now for this demo, I've actually got a piece of white Colourfix paper, which it's got a very sandy feel, so it's prepared for pastel. I'm going to put some lovely blues through here. Coming down through, I want to get lovely dark ones. I'm using the white Colourfix because I know from experience that the colours are just going to come beautifully with the water. Now there are some pastels that you cannot use this technique with. They've got a higher wax content in with them, because a pastel is made by mixing pigment with a binder, and to make it lighter it'll add a chalk medium, and you'll get to know which pastels, if you fall in love with this, which I'm sure you will, you'll get to know which pastels love getting wet, which pastels resist getting wet, and which pastels just will not move around with any sort of wet medium at all. So we've got some lovely shapes here. I'm just going to pour a bit of water over here.
So you also use a specific type of water, don't you?
Oh yes, I'm really lucky because my husband services and installs water systems, particularly reverse osmosis water. So my water has no harsh chemicals that are in city water or found water. Now I'm going to do all of this flat, and then I'm just going to hold this paper up because I actually love dribbles and lines, dripped lines.
And once this is dry, is it very stay fast?
Yes.
In what it does? Okay.
Yeah. With water, what gets dissolved is actually the pigment and the binder. But when you move it all around, the particles of pigment in the pastel, missed all that, actually, or you can see them. See all those gorgeous dots of pigment? So they start floating around. How gorgeous, oh, how gorgeous is this? Oh,
beautiful.
Look at that. Because see, I started experimenting, Graham, with pushing pastel to its limits, because if you enter competitions, there are specific restrictions sometimes with pastel, and you can only use pastel. And so if I want a beautiful wet watercolory background and I've been restricted to using only pastel, well, I can do it with pastel and water.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And then I could paint something over here like my swans in Haven.
Yeah.
That whole background in that is all wet pastel, and then just the dry pastel. Or of service, that is all wet pastel over the back. You just paint your dry, soft pastel motif and voila. So I'm so excited with how this is drying, all those beautiful spots of pigment. So we're going to put this aside, Graham, and I'm going to get ready for the next demo.
Okay.
So this technique, Graham, is fantastic. We start with black colour fixed paper, so you need to have your sanded paper, and black colour fixed primer. It's very important that you don't stick a wet paintbrush into your jars of paint or primer, because it's actually the water from the tap that turns your paint or your primers bad. And then we can just go through and make some beautiful marks with, that's a wider comb, this is a thinner comb. When they dry, what we do is we just pull our pastel across the surface. This one has been prepared earlier and it's all dry, so this is the black primer textured on top of the black colour fix. I'm actually going to use hard pastels for this, but I might want to do a chook here. So see how beautifully that's coming up there.
The texture, and it's amazing.
Oh, isn't it beautiful? And then I've purposely made up here some ridges, so that with that big ridge tool I showed you, so this is going to look a bit like.
So you changed the pattern in there?
Yeah, change the pattern in here so that it's more like a building. So this might be the chook roost. I think I want to add another background chook, because I've got a bit of a lyrical movement here. So I'm just going to put another guy. And you can see how the pastel is just catching the top of those strokes. Now I just want to keep that rhythm going, so I'm just going to run a bright yellow to help us focus on these guys. And it's going to come in, so I'm establishing a definite lyrical movement through here. And now I can just start getting some greens, because I know what I want to do is get a feeling of grasses and straw in the chook yard.
Well, that line looks like it's very similar to the picture that you've got called Chook Scratch.
Yes, Chook Scratch.
So it's going through, but it's a great piece. Now,
Yeah, that's actually pastel over a mixed media collage stamped coloured piece of watercolour paper.
Okay.
So, but I needed to put the clear pastel primer down in order for the chook to be drawn over. So I keep my photos when I print them out in black and white, because you're in charge of the colours that you use, and if you're using a coloured photo, sometimes you blindly follow that photo instead of making some decisions about where your main colours and your centres of interest, etc., should be.
Yes.
So I find it much better to keep my photo reference black and white, and that lovely feeling of being in charge of colour can be given free rein. Now I'm just going to move into some pale mauves and blues for the shadow areas. So So that gives you a really good idea of where we're going.
Yeah, and it really didn't
with
take
this.
that long at all, did it?
No, no.
That's
Because all the work has been done.
Yeah.
With your, and you get that lovely feeling of a black underneath.
Yeah, and there's a bit of a three-dimensional aspect in it as well. It's got a lot of grain and a lot of grit in it.
Yeah, he needs a bit of correction there. And you know, if I just want to make sure that I've got that lovely horizontal feel, I'll put some of that white in there as well. But anyway, we can move on to the gesso texture now.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, Graham, so this is another technique. This one's very popular. When you want to put some lovely texture into underneath your pastel. So this piece of pastel paper here has got white gesso and white tissue paper, and that's dried. And then, like I showed with the last show that we aired, this is modelling compound pushed through a lace doily.
Okay.
So you don't want that white underneath, so you just cover all that with your soft pastel.
And the doily just still comes through anyway.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, if you have a look at some of the works that we've got available for view, the Lit Field,
Yeah.
and Turquoise Sky, and but can you see how I'm melting the pastel, and I'm just making sure that I get all the white covered. And then after I've done that, I'll let that dry. And this is one here that has dried with the pastel on. And from there, you just put your beautiful soft pastels over. Now, for this demo, I'm actually using the new pastels that Art Spectrum has brought out. They're the soft pastel squares, and they are juicy as.
Juicy
honestly,
as.
oh, they're just glorious to work with.
That looks great, doesn't it?
Oh, isn't that beautiful? And these are
Lovely rich colours.
they're just beautiful. So I'm just going to establish my base.
So this is a little bit like softened Grafton.
Yes, well, softened Grafton has a wet base. So this is just a very quick impression of a field with the light just coming through from the top. All of that texture just needed to be dry brushed with the pastel, and because of that lovely umber underneath, this looks like it's closer, and that just goes away.
That's fantastic.
It's a wonderful technique, and I've used the same technique with the Lit Field, like I said, but I've put a complementary colour underneath, purple under the yellow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then do you just sort of tap the dust off
Tap the dust off.
Okay.
Yep.
While you
And
go?
I might sit with it for a bit and fiddle with the trees.
Okay.
But there's not much else I have to do with this paddock.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So you've got some other techniques you want to show us as
Sure
well?
do. I want to talk about collage now.
Let's move on.
So Graham, collage is my thing.
Okay.
And we covered previously in the first show that we did how I apply the collage. So this one is on watercolour paper, the collage tea bags, materials, bit of fabric, and it's all been covered with the pastel primer, so I'm just ready to go straight in now and start pasteling. And you can see some of my collages are for, the placement of the collage is for only compositional purposes. For example, in the Still Life note stream, that's purely compositional with the snake skin. But in something like my last lap, which is a portrait of my father towards the end of his time with us, because his short-term memory was completely gone, and he had a very, very strong memory of his racing days. He won sidecar in 1965 at Bathurst, and so the last lap is the white flag, but the collage images in that of his racing days.
Yeah,
and then of course in the portrait of Livy, the collage is taken from a piece of wallpaper where a woman is ministering to children. There's a really beautiful warm feeling of nurturing, and that was on purpose. That was to say that every child needs to have their needs fulfilled so that they can blossom.
Now, I know that you have really popular workshops across the country. After we did the first show with you, things went a little crazy, but your website address is?
triciareust.com.au.
There you go. So go in there, folks. Tricia's a very well sought after and very well respected teacher right across the country, and she has an absolute barrage of amazing information that she can pass on to you if you go to her workshops, or even drop into the website. And also, you've just won a really prestigious award. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Oh yes, yeah. The 10th International Drawing Biennale. I placed second.
That's amazing. Well done.
Yeah, it was
Fantastic.
just wonderful.
Yeah. Because the winning biennales really can change your art career. There's no two ways about that.
Yeah. And I actually was able to go to the presentations and just to see all the work from all around the world just blew me away.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, you're also write for a number of great magazines, and Australian Artists being one of them.
Yeah, quite a few articles.
Yeah, quite regularly, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then some of the techniques that you go through, and we've been discussing this today, in the grass, and you've actually used a lot of that impasto underneath to bring up the actual texture of the grass and the picture, and then the kangaroos in the background as well.
Yeah, well that's the beauty of applying your pastel primer with a big bristle brush.
Yeah.
You can leave all those gorgeous brush marks
Yeah, it's a great piece.
in it. Well, Graham, I think you can see where I'm going with this, and we've really covered a lot of stuff today.
Yes, we have.
It's been wonderful to see you again. I really hope you viewers have found something that's going to inspire you to take up pastel, and more than just doing pastel on plain paper.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many things that you can do, and obviously you being one of those artists that has developed so many different techniques, it's just fantastic. And to say that, even I use some of the techniques I learned from you in my work.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
Brian.
so it's really
Wonderful.
cool, and thanks for such a great day. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was.
Well, that was a really great day.
Thanks, Graham.
It was fantastic to see you again as well.
Oh, so good.
Especially, I mean, I think the reason that we did it this way today is that you've got so much to teach people.
Yeah.
And that's the best part about Tricia's workshops as well. Now, if somebody wants to come along to your workshop, website address?
www.triciareust.com.au.
Yeah, fantastic. Go in there. And Tricia, as I said, does these all over Australia, and she's really, really fantastic lady. And as well, if you want to come and see us at colouryourlife.com, that'd be fantastic. Come in and say hi to us. You're going to see all of these great people like Tricia in there as well. And go to our Facebook page and to our YouTube as well. We've got fantastic subscribers coming in there these days. But thank you so much for having us back in your studio again. It's amazing that, in a sense, you can see the value of what this show does for people.
It's been wonderful for me.
It's amazing, and it really is, and I know that it changes your life and obviously many other people's as well. But we're going to head off again, and as we always say, wherever we go, remember, make sure you put some colour in your life. See you next time. Bye.